Hello, everybody. How are you all doing today?
Hey Harsh, doing all right?
Doing
Uh,
good, Harsh. Very well.
yeah, and I see a friendly new face today. Hey, Gerard.
Hey, Harsh, how are you? Doing
I'm
good.
good, thanks. It's nice to meet you.
Great to meet you too.
Fred and I have no idea who Gerard is. Just
No.
kidding.
I'm, I'm day crashing.
Gerard, nice to have you on the podcast. Hello, everybody. So this is our first episode for 2026. Very excited to get started again with the episodes. This was coming for a long time.
Yeah.
NSPB versus, NetSuite EPM versus Enterprise EPM. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We have Gerard who's going to take us through and provide us more details. So, Gerard, why don't you introduce yourself and then we'll get going from there.
Great. Thank you, Ron. And thank you for inviting me to the podcast today. Yeah, I'm excited to quick intro on myself. My name's Gerard Gibney. I'm the CEO of Redhill Business Analytics. We're both a NetSuite partner and an Oracle partner. My original background is in the Oracle Enterprise EPM, but the last five or 6 years been implementing the NetSuite version of EPM. So yeah, kind of excited to walk through the differences between the two solutions and why organizations would choose one over the other as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, maybe we'll get started with that, Gerard.
Absolutely. So really where it comes from, they really both Oracle and NetSuite, they operate with different target markets. And really, as we all know, the Oracle enterprise target market is that enterprise market, those companies that typically are like $1 billion plus in the revenue, very large or large multinational complex organization, multi-entity, that side of things. So, and they're typically using like Fusion ERP. In contrast to that, or a little bit different, is the NetSuite offering, which really focuses around the mid-market offering and even a little bit into the SMB market. And then the NetSuite offering, their target market is typically companies, that operate, at least on the EPM side, 30 to $50 million in revenue up to about $1 billion. So there is obviously companies that overlap that are kind of on the larger side for NetSuite, smaller side for Oracle, but you can really use either one. And we do see that. We do see companies considering both. I have been in sales cycles where one is competing against the other, and it's kind of interesting. And so that's basically it. So the target markets are different. And the getting into kind of the next level of details, like what essentially is the biggest difference between the NetSuite EPM and the Oracle EPM. I will actually start with the Oracle Enterprise EPM. For the most part, the products are exactly the same.
Yeah.
They have planning. They have FCCS exists on both sides. Profitability and cost management exists on both sides. Account reconciliation exists on both sides. Narrative reporting exists on both sides. Tax reporting exists on both sides. And actually, freeform also exists on both sides. The one that does not exist on the NetSuite side is EDM. So enterprise data management doesn't exist. We don't really need it on the NetSuite side because all the metadata is essentially managed within the ERP. So that's one big note of difference.
Right.
The other things that's a little a little bit different is there's a very tight on the NetSuite EPM side. There's a very tight integration with the ERP. So there's a lot. NetSuite calls it the suite success model. So there's a lot of pre-built integrations that automatically, well, I wouldn't say automatic, require a lot less configuration than say what you would typically see on the enterprise side. So those very tight integrations are pre-built as bundles that we install on both the EPM side and the ERP side make those connections. And obviously, drill through is available to be able to drill back, both metadata and regular data integration. So those are very, very tightly integrated. I think generally what you see on the Oracle Enterprise side is you'll see there's a little bit of differences in the modules that's available within, say, like planning and budgeting or the overall planning module. The offering, the fundamentals are the same. They all do, income statement planning, revenue, COGS, OPEX. They both do workforce. The workforce modules are a little bit different. CapEx modules are a little bit different. Project planning doesn't really exist on the NSPB side. Obviously, it does exist on the enterprise side, and then CapEx planning, similar modules, but they are set up a little bit differently as well. So there's definitely differences there. Again, one's just tweaked a little bit more towards that, mid-market, obviously on the NetSuite side, but what those clients will use versus kind of what's done on the enterprise side. So that's kind of like at a high level some of the differences. Any questions on kind of what I've gone through so far, or?
Yeah, what are some of the, you mentioned differences with workforce. If you could highlight some high level differences in workforce between enterprise versus NetSuite. And
Yeah.
the second question, Gerard, I had was, I know in enterprise we have standard and enterprise edition licenses.
Mm-hmm.
I think NetSuite we have standard and premium, I believe. So just kind of highlighting those two as well.
Sure. So the first one, the differences on the workforce module, really everything is so at what we call it out of the box. On the NSPB side, everything's driven essentially by the employee, right? So it's employee level workforce planning. That's how it works out of the box, and there's a lot of pre-built functionality there. There's a company roster. There's a set of assumptions that's built out. So it's more built. There's more to work from. Essentially, where I would say on the enterprise side, it's a bit more of an open field. There's structure there, but there was more. There's more. It's more open, and then I also think on the enterprise side, we tend to do also a job title dimension where we don't have that on the NSPB side. Now can we make them both look the same? Can we customize them? Absolutely. Yeah, we can. And we do sometimes on the NSPB side, we will substitute out, like let's say a client say, hey, I don't want to do it at the employee level. I want to do it at the job title level. You can do that. Yeah, we can go in. So, or we can also bring in job title as a dimension as well. So there's a couple of ways to do it. So it can all be tweaked. It's just your starting position or your out of the box position is different. I would say for the most part, NetSuite tends to have more stuff out of the box ready to go for you. That's right. One difference. And I think the second question, Arun, was on the standard edition versus premium edition.
Yeah.
On the NetSuite side, again, we will get into the pricing on this as well. But generally, we always recommend, or nearly always recommend, the premium editions on NSPB because it just gives you more cubes. It gives you more out-of-the-box functionality. And so we mostly recommend that. From time to time, we do recommend standard, but I would say 80 to 90% of our implementation, we do implement premium NSPB. The cost difference is not as significant as it would be on the enterprise side. And obviously, the overall cost of the NetSuite EPM would be less because it is focused on the mid-market. So not as much of a difference there. So we generally recommend the premium is the standard.
Got it.
And does the premium also have the ability to spin up additional pods whenever you want, and any type of pods, just like we would see on the Oracle EPM enterprise side?
No, it's a different structure. You pay per pod.
Okay.
on the NetSuite side. And again, it's priced accordingly. It's the entry level it's significantly less, but you can't just spin up a pod. And when I mean premium, it's NSPB premium versus NSPB standard. They don't really get into it's structured a little differently than how they do it in the enterprise side. There's not an overall premium EPM and a standard EPM. It's structured differently.
Okay.
So if you like, for example, when we have some of our what I call borderline enterprise clients or enterprise level clients on the NetSuite side, if they want to purchase, if they want to do, NSPB planning and budgeting or NSAW or NetSuite account reconciliation, and let's say they want to also do, CMC, which is close management consolidation, they call that on the NetSuite side. That's FCCS on the enterprise side. And then let's say they want to do narrative reporting. They would have to buy 4 pods on the NetSuite EPM side. And the one cool thing though that they do that's similar to the enterprise EPM is that though if they buy like 10 or 20 user count, all of those users can access any of those pods. So, but they will pay for each of those pods separately. But it's priced accordingly. It's pretty, it's relatively inexpensive to add each of the pods. So, it's priced very reasonably.
Interesting.
Got it. And pulling
Go
this backwards just a little bit, I had one more question. You mentioned that it's tightly integrated, so you don't really need the EDM. Could you explain that a little bit better?
Absolutely. Let's take NSPB as an example. So the way it works is all the data, both the regular data, the GL data, whether it's income statement or balance sheet, or the master data, like your chart of accounts, your subsidiary structure, your department structure, they're all extracted out of NetSuite via save searches. So the way it works is when you install, whether you're installing NSPB or you're installing NSAW, there's a set of pre-built save searches that's installed within the ERP, and you can use those to extract the data out. And on the NSPB side, as an example, you also have pre-built integrations that connect to those save searches. So the nice thing is, in a relatively small amount of hours, we can set up, the metadata syncs. So we can pull, like if they basically add a new revenue account, add a new expense account, that automatically gets ported over into NSPB once the integrations are built. And that's really the real reason why you don't need it. They don't really need the concept of EDM because everything's automatically managed within within the ERP. All the master data is managed there. So that's where they have their item, what they call their item master. They have all their list of products, all their customers, all their vendors, all their projects, all their departments. It'll be all managed there. And again, it's also bearing in mind that these are more mid-market clients and they don't necessarily need to feed into other data warehouses and things like that. Although NetSuite does have its own data warehouse called NSAW, which is NetSuite Analytics Warehouse. But that's the NetSuite setup. That's how they do it.
And I also wanted to clarify specifically for our audience, Gerard. So you were describing the differences between products, but also if we look from anyone who would like to get into this professional area, become a consultant or any seasonal consultant, do you see? Well, first of all, where do you think for anyone who would like to start will be easier to start with NetSuite, let's say planning and budgeting versus enterprise planning and budgeting? And what is the from expertise perspective and experience, if someone who worked with the enterprise version can easily work with NSPB and vice versa?
Yeah, I think anybody coming from the enterprise version over to NSPB, the product, it's identical. It's the same structures. working within NSPB or working within account reconciliation will be the same. They're all the exact same products. The biggest difference, or where the learning curve is, it's all around the ERP side. It's how does the ERP actually work? How do we get the data out of the ERP? It's the integrations piece that's really the biggest difference, and how that data sits within the ERP. But the actual product itself, like, building out, data forms, writing, cal scripts or business rules or Groovy, all exactly the same. Setting up data management, data exchange, it uses all the same stuff. So on one side, actually working within the application is, there's almost zero difference. It's exactly the same. And the biggest learning curve is the integrations piece. That's the piece that's different. So that's the piece that there's a learning curve on. You heard me mention the term safe searches. That's the piece that you have to learn a little bit more. Oh, how does my data come out? But that would be the biggest piece. And then I'd say the other piece that's probably there is a kind of a suite success way, or what NetSuite does, what they call out of the box, learning how that learning how that works. Like, they'll go in, you see these pre-built forms and pre-built rules, just wondering how all that stuff sits together. That's the other that's the other piece. But again, anybody that knows planning and budgeting will go in and go, oh, this is how this is set up. So again, the one of the biggest mistakes that I would say that people coming in is they approach it in the same way as you would an enterprise and start building everything from scratch. You don't want to do that. That's not the way to do it. And there's a good reason for that. Because these projects tend to be smaller, have less hours, and there's a much quicker cadence in them. So, you've got a smaller amount of hours to do an implementation, but there is a lot of out of the box functionality you can leverage to get that done. And there is, on the enterprise side, like as an independent contractor, you might work on 1 or 2 clients at a time. But on this side, you could work on 5 or 6 or 7, because they're smaller projects, but they move along quicker as well. The timelines are quicker. So you can implement NSPB, if we were doing a very simple reporting on the app, in 4 to 6 weeks. If you add on a little bit more, if you wanted to do income statement planning, maybe 8 weeks, and you were adding workforce, maybe 10 weeks, but they're very fast. You can implement them pretty quickly, and you can implement them on a part-time basis as well.
Yeah.
Got it. And if I may follow up on this, Gerard, so if there is no, from technical and architectural perspective, no difference between products, so you can basically have the same performance, no limitation on the storage on the servers and such, why would someone prefer to go with enterprise version versus NetSuite planning and budgeting? What would be, I understand.
Yeah. The bottom line on that is it's really ERP led. So if you're on Fusion, you really should use the Fusion ERP or the Oracle Enterprise EPM, because it's really built for that. It's built for that structure. And if you're on NetSuite, you really should be using the NetSuite EPM. That would be the way to go. Because obviously on the NetSuite side, we have seen clients that do buy Oracle Enterprise and they are on NetSuite. The problem is they're missing all the bundles and they're missing all the connections, which is not a good idea. And so you really want to try to match them up correctly, but a lot of it is ERP led. And on the vice versa, I would think that for companies that are like very complex, large multinational organizations that have very complex planning requirements or have complex consolidation requirements, that you got a bit more flexibility around kind of the more out of the box suite success approach that NetSuite has. So you really want to follow, my advice would be, what the ERP has. And now, can you stray away from that from time to time? Absolutely. but you want to have a very good reason to do that. But the advice is to follow with the ERP, what the recommended path is.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Good question.
I think I've learned that, just to highlight what Gerard is mentioning, that when I started working on NSAR, I didn't find any difference in the product itself, right? Account reconciliation, NSAR, it's exactly the same. I didn't find any differences. But the integration obviously is different, right? So connecting with NetSuite is different. So that's a big thing to keep in mind. Other thing is the project approach, Gerard, you mentioned. I know we are used to longer timelines in enterprise side, but yeah, it's very short time frames, and that's why you want to stick to out of the box, I believe. I don't want to complicate things and build everything from scratch.
And I should say you can, you want to stick with out of the box and leverage that as much as possible, and then customize the end pieces. Whatever pieces need to be customized. But I would say that if you kind of tempted, I don't want to use out of the box, I'm going to build it all, you will run out of hours. You're going to, that's because there's just not enough time. Leveraging those integrations, things like that is key. Now, the nice thing is you can still customize everything. You can set up everything out of the box and then build a custom element or custom forms. That's totally fine on top of what's out of the box. That would be the way to go. And where you're kind of blending it, but leveraging out of the box is important if you want the project to be successful and on time and on budget. Otherwise, it's very difficult to do that.
Got it. Yeah, and we still have all of the integration capabilities, right? Not just NetSuite. We have data exchange, we have pipeline,
Absolutely.
EPM Automate, everything.
Yeah, you have all of those, and in fact, they've also brought over from an integration perspective, and NetSuite did release what they call NetSuite Integration Platform, or NSIP, which is Oracle Integration Cloud. So you can actually leverage that as well, which we're starting to do on some of our clients as well. So, which again gives us that enterprise grade, enterprise level integrations that we can leverage as well, which is really nice.
And Gerard, if now you mentioned that NSIP, I also remember our conversation back about NSAW. Could you also clarify those are not in scope of EPM suite, right? They come as a separate and
yes. Yeah, let me explain. So NSIP is obviously Oracle Integration Cloud, as we've talked about, and it's again exactly the same product. Obviously priced a little bit for the price less because it is for the mid market. Also, you do have another product we've talked about, which is NSAW, and NetSuite Analytics Warehouse, and that essentially combines two products on the enterprise side. It combines the Autonomous Data Warehouse and Oracle Analytics Cloud, and it pulls it together. What's really nice about NSAW is, again, using the same suite success model, there's pre-built integrations that automatically pulls across, and literally it is automatic, pulls across all your ERP data into the pre-built warehouse. So you can build dashboards right off the bat. It's really nice in that way. So that's a really nice part. Again, it's that whole suite success model, pre-built integrations, pre-built dashboards, and that whole idea. Obviously, you can customize it as well, bring in other data sources if you want. Now, the way NetSuite sell that, they call them edge products, which is they're not strictly, they don't fall under EPM, but they're not core ERP either. So they sit right next alongside those edge products, and they, that's something we implement pretty regularly as well.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I don't think we have something like NSAW.
Well, it's that the equivalent of it is is it FDI, Financial Data Intelligence is kind of like the closest to it, and it's built on that same platform. Except again, what NetSuite do is they build those pre-built integrations, so it's just plug and play. which is really nice. But the technology is the same. So if somebody was obviously familiar with FDI or OAC and Autonomous Data Warehouse, they pick up NSAW pretty quickly.
Oh, I see. And just to follow up, on the enterprise side, they also have all of those dashboards. They can have exactly the same thing, right? As I'm not familiar with FDI, so that's why
the financial data intelligence. Yeah, they have all those, and they can, again, I think what Oracle tends to do on the enterprise side is leave it more of an open field, and you can build whatever you want, because if you're a large enterprise, you kind of don't want default dashboards. You kind of want to create the way you want it. Where on the NetSuite side, they try to give you more of a template. There's more templates there that are available. Obviously, I can still go off and create my own and bring in other data sources as well. So, for example, a common one in NSAW is you're moving from, let's say, QuickBooks or Microsoft Dynamics to NetSuite. You've got 10 years of historical ERP data. You don't want to load it into your ERP because you're going to clog it up. But you say, hey, I want to use NSAW, put my 10 years of historical data that I can access easily, and then I can report and build dashboards off that historical ERP data. That's a kind of common use case of NSAW. So just moving from legacy ERPs, accessing legacy ERP data.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much. I wasn't aware about that part.
Yeah, that's just a common one. But obviously, they will also want to use NSAW for the current ERP data as well. But then you can say, well, actually, maybe I want to do look at the last, let's say I'm 5 years on NetSuite, and then I've got 10 years of historical data, but I want to build some reports that looks past the last 10 or 12 years. You could do that within NSAW because you have both sets of data. You got legacy ERP and you have the current ERP as well.
And you could bring in the EPM data as well into NSAW.
We can, and we do integrate between NSAW and EPM, where we'll bring in the EPM data into NSAW if you want to do that kind of budget versus actuals reporting. Yeah. And then we can also bring in actuals from NSAW, particularly around, again, legacy ERP data, because the data will already be remapped in the NSAW, so you don't have to do it again. So that would be another use case. As we know, remapping data is so.
Yeah. Have you seen close-in consolidation being used across NetSuite customers? Because it's usually meant for complex requirements.
Yeah. So good question. Yes, it's less common, and there's a couple of scenarios where it's used. Okay. So within NetSuite ERP, they have their own consolidation module, right? They can consolidate things up. Mm-hmm. Can it do advanced consolidation, CMC or FCCS? Not really. That's where, so there's a couple of scenarios, use cases where CMC will be used, and obviously still need to close your book within ERP. One would be where we see NetSuite clients where they have one subsidiary on, let's say, NetSuite, and then another subsidiary on QuickBooks and another subsidiary on Sage, but they want to close it all together. You can't do that within NetSuite ERP. Okay. You have to then introduce CMC to do that, right? So it's where they've multiple ERPs and they want to close those together. That would be one scenario. That's probably the most common use of that. And we have seen some clients do that. We have actually one client that's on about 20 different subsidiaries that are on a mixed bag of ERP. So there's no other choice. And the second example would be where they have complex either currency translation or minority interest reporting. Out of the box, NetSuite does not handle minority interest. You can't say, I own 70% of this subsidiary and therefore I want to consolidate it up that way. You can't do that. So that would be another example where you'd have to introduce CMC. And if there's complex currency translation adjustment, CTAs, you might want to kind of use something like CMC for that. So those are examples. It's really where, yeah, you can do your consolidation within the core ERP, but it doesn't have the same functionality as a specialized tool like FCCS CMC would have.
Got it, got it. So I know like FCC or CMC has a task manager, which is really cool. You can list all the tasks as part of your close process. Do we have something similar in NetSuite? Because a lot of customers on EPM do
Not
like,
quite
yeah,
like the month-end close checklist.
yeah, yeah.
It obviously exists in CMC, and they clients look
Right.
for that. Again, they would have it's not quite as nice on the ERP. The core again, they have workflows and things like that, but it's not quite. It wouldn't be to the same level as the closed checklist would be on FCCS or CMC. It's not to that same level of detail.
Got it.
It's more basic, more rudimentary.
Got it, got it. So I know we are engaged working together on NSAR stuff. I've seen that, a lot of customers do use NSAR. Is it because it's I don't know, is it bundled with NetSuite when they purchase NetSuite ERP? It's part of the NetSuite
No,
EPM is part of their offering, or?
no, really, no. So the biggest, no. Well, first of all, you have to pay. You have to pay that separately. But again, a lot of it comes down to like, again, more basic functionality in the ERP. And again, the ERP is built, it's built for transaction process or running your business, where, the functionality on if you think about, right, if we take account reconciliation as an example, the limitation within the core ERP for example, for reconciling accounts, it's only those cash and bank accounts that you can reconcile. You can't reconcile your AP, you can't reconcile your AR, can't do any of that other reconciliation applied. So when those organizations need to do those, want to reconcile all their balance sheet accounts, you can't do that within the core ERP. It's a limitation. And it's the same on the other part of the account reconciliation, which is transaction matching. There is really no transaction matching engine within the core ERP except for those bank accounts. You can't go and say, well, I want to, transaction match, like let's say if I'm an e-commerce organization, I'm using like my Amazon settlements to my payments, or to my bank account. You can't do all of that. And you certainly can't do two-way matches, three-way matches, four-way matches. You can't do any of that either. So you can't do like your POS system to your bank account, or sorry, to your bank, and then your bank to your GL. You can't do stuff like that. So it's even almost like the same thing exists on planning. Can you do budgeting and forecasting within the core ERP? You can, but it's very basic. It's like everything. So when you get to pieces where it's limited, you either have to go, I have to buy additional software, or you might have to also go within NetSuite and get a NetSuite partner that will add on further detail or further functionality to the core ERP. So there's limitations there. Again, some organizations don't need that. They don't need to be able to do, like on planning a budget, they don't need to be able to do what if analysis. They don't need to be able to do complex modeling. They just want to be able to produce a budget, load it in. That's it. Then the core ERP is fine. When you need to go beyond that, then you need something like NSPB, and that's where those other modules come in. So yeah, I would say if I was ranking the NetSuite EPM products in terms of popularity, I would say definitely NSPB is number one, and probably NSAW is number two. But they're also the two that have been out the longest. Like NSAW got released about 2 years ago. NSPB's had about 5 years. Some of the other products are getting traction. There's a lot of interest, particularly around narrative reporting. And so, particularly companies that are kind of pre-IPO or planning to go IPO, they want to produce their 10Ks and their 10Qs. They're utilizing that as well. There's obviously interest around close management consolidation as well, but those are the ones that are definitely smaller, and interest around PCM as well. But I would say number one, number two, NSPB, NSAW are number one, number two.
Got it. Okay.
And Gerard, so I think it's safe to say that NetSuite EPM isn't truly just like a very light or basic version of the full Oracle EPM suite. It is very feature rich and capable on its own. Can you think of some use cases where a customer may be a NetSuite user or a NetSuite customer, and they might want to explore the full-fledged Oracle EPM versus the NetSuite EPM?
I would say the use case might be where they wanted to take advantage of something like EDM, like a master data management, where you cannot do that within the NetSuite EPM. That SKU is not for sale. And so let's say they were like, okay, we want to manage all of our master data centrally, all of our chart accounts, because we want to feed other third-party systems. Let's say we want to feed Snowflake, we want to feed another data warehouse, we want to feed BI reporting, stuff like that. That would be one use case that I could think of, because almost everything else is available.
Yeah.
And, that would be where that product just wasn't available. That would be
Got it.
about it.
And you get the more aggressive pricing with the NetSuite EPM.
Yeah. So obviously it's priced, the NetSuite EPM will be priced, lower than the Oracle Enterprise EPM SKUs, and both on an overall server basis and then a per user basis, it's going to be less across the board because they're, it's a different target market as well, and slightly different product. Again,
yeah.
when you're in a situation where you're not matching up with the ERP, you want to come up with if you're unsure or you're not sure what to do, just go with the one that, if you're on NetSuite, purchase NetSuite EPM. If you're on Oracle ERP Fusion, purchase the full enterprise suite. There want to be a very good justification for you to cross over.
Makes sense.
If I may clarify, Gerard, regarding different products, so we discussed NSPB and how it has pre-built out-of-the-box features that reduces the implementation time and the cost. When it comes to NSAW, what is the difference between enterprise and NetSuite that will lead to the same shorter time to implement and less cost? Because I'm thinking like it's transaction matching, right? It's different sources. How you can reduce the time over there?
Well, again, it comes back to the integrations, right? And the integrations are out of the box, you can build the integration, so you can pull in your, all whether it's all your income statement data, your balance sheet data on the reconciliation appliance side, you can pull that in very quickly. And that's really where your big time savings are in terms of obviously if you have very complex transaction matching rules, there's going to be no time savings there, because kind of like writing a business rule on NSPB, business rule, if you're the right custom one, there's nothing you can do. But I would say it's primarily around the integrations and that the big time savings would be. Arun, I don't know if you would agree with that one, or two thoughts are there.
Yeah, I do. I think to your point, like transaction matching, obviously, if you're doing transaction matching, getting data from different data sources, setting up the matching rules, that is time consuming. That's that part. You can't really save time there.
There's no technological shortcut there that we can do. I think the reason why NetSuite can do it is because they know they're always going to the same source, so they can pre-build that integration and go, hey, we're always going to go to NetSuite. Here's our set of saved searches. This is how and that's where hundreds and hundreds of hours of consulting hours are saved. Versus when we were thinking back in the day when we were implementing Hyperion S-based Hyperion Planning, how much time we would spend just on the integrations alone. It could be 2 or 3 or 4 months just on that piece. So that's where the big savings are. So I think that's those pre-built integrations is really helpful.
Got it. And when we talk about integrations, so with again, I'm trying to understand more with AR. So we have integration with NetSuite, which helps. Then with Fusion, we have integration with ERP Fusion. But then with Enterprise, I would assume you would also need to connect with a bunch of different other sources. That's why, or like why I'm thinking Enterprise AR cannot, have pre-built configuration very similar like in NetSuite. And then because it's ERP, they know that ERP, why they cannot pre-build the same configuration on the AR side.
We do have pre-built integrations to Fusion, right? So that's there for ARCs. Yeah, I think Enterprise, you could go to Fusion, you could go to SAP, you could go to some other ERP, I guess. But NetSuite, I mean, Gerard, from what I understood from what you were saying is, if you're NSAR, you are probably getting your data from NetSuite ERP.
Pretty yes on the reconciliation compliance side, yeah, that's what you're doing. I mean, could you go to those other systems? Sure, but you got to custom build all that stuff then.
Yeah.
Right. I see.
So that again, it's the same underlying technology. You're just on the NetSuite side, you're leveraging that, you're leveraging the pre-built integrations. That's the idea. And I would also say on typically what we would see is the reconciliation compliance and the transaction matching complexity on the NetSuite side generally will be a lot simpler than what you would see on the enterprise side. It's not going to have the volume because they are smaller organizations overall. Now, I would say typically there's going to be exceptions, of course there is, but typically you would see the volumes are less, the sets of rules are less, so they're less complex organizations, in terms of the maturity.
Yeah, even for like NSCR, I've seen like number of users are less who will be doing reconciliations.
Right.
You don't need to worry about complex approval workflows and stuff like that. Some would say, you know what, just me and my my manager. That's it.
Right. Yeah. Again, we do see that on the NSPB side. There might be, just one or two users within just using that planning and budgeting tool. They don't have, 20 folks in the FP&A department going through that. I mean, can you have clients like that? Yes. But it's generally the 80-20 rule. 80% are on the smaller side, and then you got that 20% that might be more on that enterprise level. So it just really depends.
Nice. Do you, Gerard, have in mind any features or anything that we have on NetSuite EPM side or opposite on enterprise side that you wish we had with NetSuite EPM, or opposite, like way where it could be more simplified maybe, or some features, something that we are missing there?
Yeah, the one thing that I've noticed on the enterprise side that I hope they bring across to the NetSuite side, they have a predictive cash flow forecasting. I don't see anything like that again on the NetSuite side. Now, can you go and build something like that? Yeah, you could, but again, that would be a lot of consulting hours and very time consuming. I would love to see that being brought across and offered on the NetSuite side, because it is something. I mean, cash is king in all these organizations, right? Everyone wants to know if they're going to run out of cash. So having something like a auto-generated. I mean, we get asked a lot about 13-week cash flows, things like that. Within NetSuite, it does do NetSuite planning and budgeting has an out-of-the-box indirect cash flow, but that's at a monthly level. The idea of having a cash flow at a weekly level and predictive cash flow forecasting is very compelling. There would be a lot of interest around that. So that's one of the ones that sticks out in my mind that I would love to see come across.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Any other questions, gentlemen?
I had one on integrations that might be taking us a little backwards or a little too technical, but you know how the NetSuite ERP and the EPM is tightly wound together. Would you say it's safe to say that you don't need as much of integration architects or integration expertise, and most people configuring NSPB, NSAR, or the different modules would be able to handle all those integration needs for a simple ERP to EPM integration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you don't need to have experience with, OIC or NSIP or ODI or any of these kind of, or Boomi, those industrial level ones. You don't really need that anymore. And again, it's all built really around the data integration tool. So, we know that, data integration is great, or data exchange, the data exchange tool. You can do mapping in there. You can do multi-dimensional mapping. It's an ETL-like tool, but you can do a lot with it. If you did need to get more complex, obviously you can now have the option of the NSIP to do that if you're doing complex transformations or something like that. But I would say for at least 95% of our implementations, you don't need to be an integration specialist or anything like that. You don't need that level of expertise. A lot of it really is. And I know it sounds funny. It is out of the box. It does require configuration and testing, which is the key thing to make sure. Okay, hey, I'm pulling over my chart of accounts. Does that match correctly and how it's going over? And validation of it is, that's the key part. But it's literally hours and days, rather than weeks to do that. It's not typically a huge lift to do that. So the short answer is, yeah, you don't need to be an integration specialist. There is a way that they do want you to do it. And once you did it once or twice, you just follow that process and it pretty much should all work from there.
Thanks.
I have very interesting question on this, Gerard. So we discussed how NetSuite can, shorten your time because you don't need to spend a lot of time on integration. You don't need to be have a deep expertise in integrations. What do you see globally as a trend with AI and all of that? Do you see that at some time, in the future, we will have a situation where basically those applications might have AI and can, with a minimal effort, connect with each other and would require very minimal expertise at the level that it requires right now?
Yeah, again, I look at AI as and that's a loaded question, of course. I look at AI more like a tool. And yes, can it speed up your development time? Absolutely. Can it? Will it get to the level where I can just tell AI, hey, can you create me, an OpEx form with this type of trending off the actuals, and I want to do like, a 6+6 or something like that? Yes, I think it will get. I still think it will need a level of expertise, and the technical side should get easier, and that's what I would expect it to be able to do. But it will still only get, I expect it to get you, 90% there or 95 or 98% there, but still the tweaks will still need to be done by a developer, like in everything, whether you're developing games or you're developing whatever you're doing, and
right.
You still need that expert level. Now, will it get better and better as we move along? Absolutely. And it's going to be it's a very interesting space to see how good it gets, obviously the things that are built within AI that are particularly on NSPB side, that's of a lot of interest is, obviously predictive, the advanced predictive planning, generative AI, where generating that text around reports, stuff like that. So there'll be a lot of interest. I think it's a fast moving space. But in the end of the day, I still think it will need. The other piece that it will need, even though the technology will be very good, is that functional expertise. So a lot of us folks who build planning and budgeting solutions, you're not just bringing the technical expertise, but you're bringing best practices around FP&A. This is the best way to build a budget. This is the best way to build a forecast. This is how we do it. And that's where AI may not be as good, But again, NetSuite tries to do that with their pre-built packages to bring in the FP&A best practices as well. But that it's blending all of it together. I think it is going to make the developer's job quicker and faster. But as we know, there's always complexities within all of these organizations. So it's an interesting space. I still think for the next next couple of years, I think we're still okay.
So funny, right? Because you could ask AI to build something, and it'll build it for you.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you could ask, should you be building that, right? Because when we go to projects, that's what happens. Technically, you could build anything.
Yeah.
Should you be doing it? Maybe not, right?
And also the other question is, okay, I have an AI building my model, and I don't if I don't understand my data, is this right? Is it what it's okay? It's built me a budget or forecast, but how accurate is this? And that's the other thing, right? So you still need to be able to. At the end of the day, you still need to be able to validate what AI does, and whether it's on a data side, metadata side, business, you need to be able to check it. So it will speed up the development process, but you need to be able to check it, and that's where the expertise is required, I think. So. And it's actually funny with NetSuite and what I've been able to do with NetSuite, which is kind of interesting. I've been able to connect Claude to the NetSuite data and build models. And Claude has an Excel, almost like an Excel add-in, where I can say, like, create me, show me my top 5 vendors, show me my top 5 customers, and it will dump that into Excel and build all this for me. I can say, create an income statement for me. It will do that. And so NetSuite, on the ERP side, has that built in. It has a built-in, you have to install a bundle, but it has a built-in MCP server, so it's very easy to do. I'm kind of waiting for the same thing on the EPM side. It hasn't got there yet, so but I built that goes in my demo environments, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, if you want to do another session on that one, I'm happy to do that.
Let's do it with some demo.
And actually, if I may, really quickly, Gerard, so you mentioned Claude, and I know it's a lot of now hype and a lot of talk about Claude on the internet. Do you see there is a less demand now for tools like planning and budgeting and overall FP&A tools, because now you can do many things with Claude and Excel? So maybe some would think they don't really need an application, but they can use just Excel models with the Claude. Do you see anything like that?
So so there's a caveat to that one as well. So it depends on your use case. So one of the big things, or one of the limitations that I do see, because you can basically ask Claude, especially if you connect it through the Claude Excel add-in, build me a model with drivers and all this, and it will do it. And it does a nice job of it. Now, the piece where it lets it down that I would see is like that what if modeling. So within NSPB, we're able to create scenarios and versions and compare one against the other. You're still in Excel. You can't do that. And you can't do that easily, and you can't combine them together. So that's where I see a limitation on that. Again, Fred, I think if your budgeting and forecasting is relatively simple and you're kind of operating in Excel today, and you do that, yes, it's going to be a step forward. Is it a replacement for something like NetSuite Planning and Budgeting? No, because it doesn't have that ability to do what if scenarios, say more complex driver-based planning, complex allocations, things like that. That's what it would be missing.
Right. Security, database to store all of that.
Yeah. So there is limitations. Again, you're still working in Excel. So think about the typical Excel limitations. Why clients want to move out of Excel into NSPB? Right. You're still stuck with those limitations because it's
Awesome. Sounds good. That's great conversation. Thank you, Gerard.
Sure.
I think we are at time, Gerard. But before we let you go, a couple questions. If you're not doing consulting, what else would you be doing? Weekends, what fun things?
Oh, what things am I doing? Oh, probably Probably hanging out with my kids, trying to get out I'm lucky that I live in Southern California, so we have great weather, like
Yeah.
300 days of the year. Just doing things like that, getting outside and hanging out with my wife and kids. That's mostly my weekends are mostly taken up with taking my kids to the various activities.
Yes.
So I'm basically a part-time Uber driver on the weekends.
Love it.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
So,
Two more questions. One, your
sure.
favorite cuisine. What do you like to eat?
My favorite cuisine. Oh, good question. I'm again, because I live here in Orange County in Southern California. I think our best cuisine in Orange County is actually Vietnamese food, and I love
Nice.
Vietnamese food. And we're very lucky. We've got the largest Vietnamese community outside of Vietnam up the street from us. So there's excellent restaurants and foods there. I'd say I'm thinking Vietnamese food.
Got it. Got it. And if you travel, where do you like to travel? Like outside of the US, if I
Outside of the US, well, I probably can tell from the accent I'm originally from Ireland, so I do like to go home and visit my friends and family in Ireland. So I'm lucky enough that I'm going back there for the month of June. So it'll be really
Awesome.
nice.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah, that's probably where I mostly end up going. So
Got it. Got it. Yeah, no, I think this was a great conversation, Gerard. We appreciate you hanging out with us and sharing your knowledge with us. We look forward to welcoming you back sometime soon. So
absolutely. Thank you guys for having me on, and it's been a pleasure.
thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Harsh. To you. Fred,
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
bye.
everyone. Bye bye.